Hey, what is up you guys, it's Epic here, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you all my level 50 Sacred Smasher Amara the Siren build for Borderlands 3. Before the video starts though, I just want to thank you all for your support recently, as it really means a lot. And also this will, as I said, be for a level 50 Amara, so if you are watching in the future when DLC has come out, she may be a higher level, meaning you may have extra skill points. But with that being said, let's get right into it. So first off, I went with Face Slam. I really just think it's a better skill than the other two, but it says that Amara leaps into the air and slams the ground, dealing damage to all nearby enemies and knocking them up. I feel like this is going to be really handy for crowd control and really good if you're in a corner getting just wailed on by enemies. But next I went with Root to Rise, and this one is very simple. It just increases her max health, and I think that's very important when you're running a Siren, so I went 5 out of 5 into that. Next up is Personal Space. Amara's weapon shots deal bonus damage based on the distance to her target. The closer the target, the greater the bonus. And I really think this complements the Face Slam really well, just because we're always going to be up close and personal, slamming enemies and punching them, so I really think this is going to go well with it. So for that reason, I went 3 out of 3. Next up, I just went 1 out of 5 in Clarity, and to put it simple, it just makes you regen health constantly. And the reason I only went 1 out of 5 in here is because if you know me, you'll know that I don't get along with regen health skills. I just think you're always going to be taking damage and they're pointless. But when you need a breather and you're not in battle, it is really handy to have your health just regen for you so you don't have to go to a vendor. So that's why I went 1 out of 5. Next up, I went 3 out of 5 in Arms Deal. Amara deals increased splash damage and takes reduced splash damage. Now on one half, I did really just do this to advance the tree, but on the other half, I actually think this could be quite handy for grenade enemies and enemies that have slam attacks like the Vault monster, so that's why it's here. Next up, I maxed out Mindfulness. Whenever Amara takes damage, she gains a stack of Mindfulness. For every stack of Mindfulness, Amara gains improved shield regen delay and movement speed. Now you can stack this up to 25, and I actually think that's going to be a really big bonus. I just feel like if I'm fighting a raid boss, it's going to be really handy, like I can just run away and avoid stuff. And if you think about it, you're always going to be at 25 stacks of this stuff if you're fighting a raid boss, unless some like crazy tactic comes out to one-shot it. Next up, 1 out of 1 in Find Your Center. Amara gains increased melee damage, and for a few seconds after using her action skill, she gains more melee range. I love them effect percentages there, 100% melee damage and 75% melee range. And it also lasts for 20 seconds, so I think it's going to be a really handy skill. Next up, I went 4 out of 5 into One with Nature. Amara gains increased max health and elemental damage resistance to her action skill element, which, spoiler alert, you're going to find out in a second, is actually fire. So having that resistance to fire is going to be really helpful for staying alive. Next up, I went 3 out of 5 in Jab Cross. Whenever Amara deals melee damage to an enemy, she gains increased action skill damage and gun damage for a few seconds. I really don't think this is going to be all that handy, but if the action skill damage, the whole slam thing, counts as melee damage, then that could be really powerful. If not, then it's still a semi-decent skill, but you could really spec into other things if you wanted. I just spec it because I want to access the rest of the tree here. Next up, 1 out of 1 into Do Unto Others. Whenever an enemy damages Amara, she automatically throws an energy orb back at them, dealing action skill elemental damage, which, if you don't know already, is fire, and it has a cooldown of 8 seconds. I really can't stress enough how helpful this skill is going to be. Next up, 1 out of 1 in Guardian Angel. When Amara enters Fight for Your Life, she immediately gains a second wind, restores her health, and creates an action skill elemental Nova that may knock back near enemies. It has a 2-minute cooldown, but honestly, that does not matter at all, because like I said in the Zane video, an instant second wind, that is crazy helpful. So next up, for our action skill effect, we have Glamour. Enemies damaged by Amara's action skill become confused and temporarily attack their allies. It does, however, reduce our action skill cooldown, but I really don't mind that because I think we're going to get a class mod that will increase that anyway. And finally, at the end of the tree, we have Blitz, and let me just say, I only picked this because I could, but it basically makes a melee override, allowing you to dash at an enemy and punch them, and that punch also does elemental damage. So I think you'll find it quite helpful if you're a fan of being a melee player, but nonetheless, it is the final final capstone. Next up in Mystical Assault, I have 1 out of 5 in Do Harm, a nice little nod to Dr. Z, but it basically says that killing an enemy grants Amara a stack of rush, and when she activates her action skill it consumes all of the rush stacks. However, for every stack of rush consumed, she'll actually get more action skill damage. I think it's going to be really helpful. However, the reason why I didn't go 5 out of 5 is because it doesn't increase how many stacks you can have, and to me that is the only reason I would want to increase it. Next up, I went 3 out of 3 in Fast Hands. Amara's reload speed, weapon swap speed, and mode switch speed are improved. Really nice percentages there, and I really think it's going to help you out. Next up, I put 1 out of 5 in Violent Tapestry for the same reason I did in Do Harm, but it basically means that applying a status effect grants you a stack of rush. However, this one makes it so that when it consumes them, you actually get more of an increase to your status effect chance, which means you will most likely be able to catch more enemies on fire. Below that, Restless is 5 out of 5 for the obvious reason that we get increased action skill cooldown rate, so hopefully that will help to counter out our confusion effect. And then finally for this tree, I have Ascendant, 1 out of 1. All action skill augments gain increased effects. I don't really know what to say about this one, I just know that it's going to be really helpful, and it's, you know, it's kind of a no-brainer. And then finally, to end off, we are in the Fist of the Elements tree, and I went for 5 out of 5 in Anima. Amara's status effects deal increased damage over time and have increased duration, and her action skill status effect will deal further increased damage. Really great for elemental damage, nothing really special about it, but it is going to be helpful either way. Next up, I have 1 out of 1 in Illuminated Fist. Amara gains increased melee damage, and her melee damage is converted to her action skill element. That's going to be really cool. I can just go around punching people, setting them on fire. And then I went 5 out of 5 in Wildfire. Whenever Amara applies a status effect to an enemy, it has the chance to spread to a nearby enemy. 40% spread chance, that is going to be insane, and I really think it's worth having. And finally, we'll end off the build by checking out our action skill element, which is of course Soulfire. Converts Amara's action skill to incendiary damage. And if you've been paying attention up until now, then I'm pretty sure you know why I picked it. But I am by no means any build master or expert, so do let me know in the comments if you have a better build than this, and you know, if you have anything that you would like to see added or taken away from my build, let me know as well. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for this video. Big thank you to channel members CookedKiwi and Valventin for their support. But with that being said, thanks for watching and have a nice day.